Hey guys, it's Crossroads here. Today I want to talk to you about Palantir, the stock and the company as well. They don't have earnings quite yet, but I want to talk about the announcement today. It was a big one. And without further ado, let's talk about this, what this is, and also why it is so important as well. So, this is on Lumen's website, and you're like, well, I thought you were talking Palantir. Yes, it's relevant. They announced a contract here with Palantir and in other press releases as well, not this one specifically, they mentioned the amount of it, that it's a multi-year contract for $200 million. Right here, it says announced a multi-year, multi-million dollar strategic partnership. Now, there's a couple of things that are interesting on this. One is we very rarely know the size of a commercial contract. Usually, what happens is we'll know the U.S. government side and also other governments as well, because it's public domain. Taxpayers demand to know and want to know, and so it's public record. There's a few exceptions, but mostly we know all those contracts and their sizing, or far majority of them. Commercial side, it used to be back in 2021, 2022, and so forth, that companies didn't even mention that they were working with Palantir. In fact, they would oftentimes sign Palantir to a non-disclosure agreement and say, you can't even mention that we're using your product ever under any circumstances, period. And that was the norm, radio silence on Palantir. Now the tables have turned, and not only do we have many companies that are eager, and we'll talk about why, to announce that they're partnering with Palantir, but also some like Lumen that are willing to share the size as well. Now, 200 million, is that the biggest deal for Palantir over multiple years? No, but it's still a good size commercial contract. And I expect that they'll have quite a few more of these. But more than the size of the contract, although it's very, very nice, I think it's really interesting also to see the effect that this might have on as far as concentration risk as well. So Palantir reports, when they report their earnings, they come out with the SEC filing, and they always talk about concentrations of credit risk. When this was a brand new company, when it related to the commercial side, they've been on the government side, for 20 plus years now. But on the commercial side, it's relatively new. And so oftentimes you would see something with the concentration risk where they'd have maybe 3 or 4 customers that represented 10% or higher of the accounts receivable. Now we can see that this has really shifted. Now, each quarter might be different. And so we might see, and some companies also pay like every half a year or so. But usually these days, we're seeing 1, maybe 2 customers represent this. So here it says that the company's account receivables as of June 30th, 2025 and December 31st, 2024 were $747.5 million and $575 million respectively. And then this is customer I. They do code these when they can't release who it is, but they can share the amount, represented 22 and 26% of total accounts receivable. So that amount is, by the way, a lot higher than Lumen. And this is, by the way, almost certainly Airbus. They have the Skywise platform that they built with Palantir. This is almost always the largest partnership that they have. Department of Defense is also quite large as well, but they have no other customers that have more than 10% of accounts receivable. Now, as they land more and more companies like Lumen that have sizable contracts, that concentration risk actually goes down, not up. Even though it's a sizable contract, relative to the revenue that they make each quarter, it's actually quite small as well. So that's a good thing. We know the contract size. We know that the concentration risk is going to continue to go down as well. Now, the other thing that's really intriguing about this isn't the first announcement that Palantir and Lumen have had. So this is just a month and a half ago, essentially. This is on September 4th. Palantir and Lumen partner to accelerate telecom transformation. And they basically landed a deal with Palantir. Palantir got in, and they're like, hey, we really need to do more with Palantir because what they offer and what they do is incredibly exciting. Read that press release. I'm not going to read it for you. If you're curious about it, there's a couple of them out there, actually. But the Lumen one is very interesting as well. I will read you this quote right here from Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir. Our partnership with Lumen has reached new heights. Again, this is not their first partnership with Palantir. They announced things just a month and a half ago. It's rare when you get into a company like this and they're like, okay, it's been just a little bit over a month. Let's actually expand this because what we're seeing is just magical. So Karp says American companies need to unlock immediate value from AI. That's the key right there. That's why this is happening. We are proud to work with Lumen to enable, I'm not sure what went wrong with my internet. They're working with Lumen to enable the Palantir solution here. So, and the goal with Lumen, by the way, was to save $1 billion on your operations side, actually through a couple of means. Optimization is probably the best word to describe it, through 2027. And within the press release itself and within comments elsewhere by the CEO, they mentioned that this is part of that vision, and specifically that that's helps them get on track and be on track to actually have that saving. So is that $1 billion saved all from Palantir? Well, no, absolutely not. But it is a significant part of the story. And deals like this, which will be under the limelight because this is a publicly traded company, where you know that they came in and within less than 2 months later, they're like, we need more Palantir. They re-upped, they shared publicly, they disclosed the amount, and they disclose much of the ROI as well. Take a look again at that press release and also the projected savings that they hope to have. But through 2027, a large chunk is through Palantir. As Alex Karp said, companies need AI that actually works, that unlocks immediate value. And the problem is with other competitor products, like let's say Agentforce from CRM, it's not that good of a product. It can do some good things for you, I'm sure. I've seen demos of it and it looks pretty slick. But the problem is it doesn't deliver real value immediately. It's not intuitive. It doesn't have the ontological layer, so it can't really do everything that Palantir does. It's not a one-for-one product. Now, they'll get some volume, but Benioff and his team, I'm sorry, it's not a one-for-one replacement. And so when companies like Lumen see Palantir, perhaps for the first time, operating inside their business, they're seeing the massive ROI and they're contrasting it with what else is out there. They know that there's not really an alternative, that they are happy to partner with Palantir. Yes, it's expensive, but it's expensive for a reason, because it delivers real value as well. Now, since they re-up the contract, there's going to be a couple of interesting things that happen. Now, first, you need to know this term right here, NDR, or net dollar retention. Yes, it's almost just a footnote in the earnings. This is, by the way, a slide deck from Q2 for Palantir's earnings. So we don't know what Q3 will be yet. This measures, it's a little bit different than different companies call it different things, but business to business type of companies oftentimes will track this. And in essence, when you have somebody under contract and they've been with you for a while, and then they re-up their contract and actually increase it, which over time they should anyway, this measures how much that's happening. So this is saying, in essence, existing clients that a year ago were, let's say 100%, they're at 128%. So they've seen a 28% increase with existing partners and clients already. Now, Palantir does the net dollar retention just a little bit different. And so if there is a customer that they've had for less than a year under contract and they re-up, they do not count that as net dollar retention. And so we've seen comments now, I believe, for 3 quarters where Glazer, the CFO, comes in and he says, hey, net dollar retention is this. Great figure. We're doing awesome. But it also doesn't fully capture the acceleration of Palantir with our existing clients, because this is not isolated to Lumen. There's many companies out there that land a deal with Palantir and they do not want to wait a year. They're like, we need more Palantir now. Let's sign this contract and get it done, because the value is just frankly incredible. So I expect that we'll continue to hear more of those comments. And I also expect that net dollar retention, I was thinking maybe it would plateau or taper off. And there is a point where it stops increasing, by the way. The reason why that's important, if you're looking at year-over-year revenue acceleration, if Palantir had not landed a single other client for an entire year, they would still show 28% revenue growth year over year. That's why this is really important, is you don't want to just sell to new clients. You do want to do that, but you also want to be able to expand with existing clients and provide them more solutions as well. A tell as old as time. Now, the last very interesting thing about this as well is we have a bit of what's called I'm calling it, at least anyway, the Palantir effect. So again, remember, just a few years ago, people looked at Palantir very skeptically, companies as well. And as a result, they would not say when they had a contract with Palantir, with rare exceptions, and they certainly wouldn't disclose any of the parameters and details. Now it's the opposite. Oftentimes, still commercial companies don't share the cost of Palantir, but they will share that they partnered it. And there's a few reasons. One is because of the market, and many market participants and many investors as well understands Palantir is a rare beast. It's AI that works. It's AI and software that dominates. It is incredibly important on the enterprise system as well, and will continue to be. That's why the stock trades at so much of a premium. And so when you see Palantir go into a business like Lumen that's trying to make a pivot and transition, they know with Palantir, it's not guaranteed to work, but it is a whole lot more likely as well. So Lumen announces today, and let's see what happened with the stock. Now, of course, it was a pretty green day, I will say. So you can't just say, well, it's all because of Palantir, but a good chunk is absolutely due to this. Lumen is up. It's almost 11% today, 10.65%. And of course, Lumen was not the only one that was announced that had a bit of a Palantir effect. There was one other company that they mentioned on MedNet. Let me see if I can remember. On Med. This was, I believe, back in September. I know it was back in September. So let's zoom a little bit out. And you see this tremendous pop that this is, by the way, a microcap. Don't know a whole lot about the business other than the description when the press release came out. But they announced a Palantir partnership. They're in medical services or an infrastructure play there. And their stock immediately popped and went up. You can see 148.54%. Now, is it at its peak? No, absolutely not. And of course, part of this is rotation in the stock market towards smaller cap, micro cap, forgotten plays as well. But man, this was a tremendous increase, and it's still holding most of those gains as well. We've seen this with a couple other names too, but yeah, the Palantir effect is real for companies, and it's real for their stock because it is such a big deal for their company. And so this, again, just hallmarks how much things have changed for Palantir since the beginning of 2023 versus now, where it's one of the most elite companies to work for, to work with, to have in your company, and also as far as investing as well. So there you have it. This is a bigger deal than just the 200 million amount, although that's always very nice as well. Palantir is going to have earnings fairly soon. I'll have an earnings preview, I expect, before earnings come out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Did this move the needle or change anything for you? If you're a Palantir investor or if you're on the outside looking in, I understand being skeptical. Some of the things are harder to understand, and the stock is really expensive. So I'm barely adding here very, very slowly. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing. And until next time, happy investing.